In this chapter, we're going to be building a new website from scratch, a simple brochure type site that you might build for a small local business. We'll start fresh by installing WordPress again locally or at your SiteGround server and preparing the default 2016 theme for customization. In this new WordPress installation, you'll be working on your local computer as a staging environment as if you were going to transfer the site to a live server. You can also use your live environment at SiteGround for this, developing the site at a new staging domain. Here's your challenge for this first video of Chapter 3. Make sure you've downloaded the latest version of WordPress, and then start MAMP and install WordPress in your local development environment. Then go into the settings area and get the site ready as we did in the last chapter. Pause the video now and get it set up. If you're using the SiteGround server instead, your challenge is to set up a fresh WordPress installation manually instead of using the auto installer. To do this, you'll have to use the cPanel file manager to upload the files manually into a new subdirectory or folder that you'll create under your student domain. Use the file manager and your code editor as well as the database section of the cPanel to manually install WordPress. Pause the video now and I'll show you how to do both processes when you come back. Good luck! Okay, I hope you got on well with that. The first thing I'm going to do is make sure that I have the latest version of WordPress by going to wordpress.org and hitting the download WordPress button, making sure that I have the latest version. And if I open Windows Explorer and open my WordPress folder, you'll see that I do have WordPress 4.5.1, and I did download the zip file and then unzipped it. And here are my WordPress files. Now I'll go into :MAMP in another Windows Explorer folder, open htdocs, and I'm going to create a new folder here called brochure site. Open that up, select all the files, and hold down Control and copy them over. Alright, now that those files are copied over, I know that they're in the folder called brochure-site, and I'm going to go ahead and start MAMP and get myself ready to look. So I'll say OK, and I'm going to open the start page. That's going to open the MAMP start page in my browser so that I can easily connect with the database. phpMyAdmin is available up at the top menu or down in the content area there. And I'm going to create a new database for this new WordPress installation. I'm going to call it brochure site and hit create. Great, now that that's been created, I can go ahead and connect the WordPress wp-config file. Here we are. Okay, inside of brochure site, I'm going to go ahead and rename the wp-config-sample to just wp-config. And then if I double click that, it'll open inside of my text and code editor. There it is. Alright, wp-config.php inside of the brochure site folder. I know that the database name is the same. If you remember, the username and the password are both root in our local installation, and the localhost needs to identify the port. And so let's go back. Let's see. We go back into the start page of MAMP. I can see that the MySQL port is 3306. And this is also visible inside the database up here at the top. The server's localhost :3306. So I can define the host inside of the wp-config file as localhost :3306. I'm just going to hit Control S to save it, and Now I can just open a new window, new tab in my browser, localhost / brochure-site. If everything's connected properly, it should recognize that WordPress isn't quite installed yet, and I'll choose my language and go ahead and set up the website. If you do use a password that you can remember for your local computer, you have to confirm the use of a weak password and hit install WordPress. Great, I hope that worked as smoothly as it did for me. And now we'll go ahead and get started setting up inside of the Settings tab. The last few things that I want to do is under Settings General. Set up a few things like the tagline. Leave the URLs the same. Email address. Let's choose my time zone. Those I can leave as the defaults and save changes. Next, under writing, I don't think I'll have to change any of these for now. But under reading, I am going to go ahead and make a static page for now, the sample page, one of my front page display. I know that under discussion and media, I'm going to leave that as is for now. And under permalinks, I'm definitely going to choose post name and then save changes. Nice job. Now I'm going to open the new site in a new tab. Take a look. There we go. The sample page is my home page. One more thing. I've still got the admin bar up at the top of the site here. I'm going to remember to go ahead and go back under my profile and turn that off so that I can look at the site as the public will see it. Great. Now if I refresh here, I think that admin bar should disappear. This is what the site will really look like. Now, for those of you that are using SiteGround and your live server environment, let's manually set up WordPress inside of SiteGround using the cPanel. So log into your SiteGround hosting account and then click Go to cPanel up at the top left. First, we have to go into the File Manager and create a fresh, clean folder, and we can call it
up at the top left.
brochure-site. Usually, I'll dismiss this button for the File Manager by clicking Show Hidden Files, and also skip this question and open this directory when I hit the File Manager. So here I am in my public HTML original WordPress installation area. What I'm going to do is add another folder right inside of public HTML by going up here and clicking New Folder. I'm going to call it brochure-site, and I'll hit Create New Folder. So now I have a new folder called Brochure Site. If I double click that folder, you can see that the directory is empty. But what I'm going to do is just go to Upload, and I can hit Browse at the top here. And here is where I can go into my computer and I can find my WordPress folder and the latest version of WordPress that I have saved. So I'll double click that folder I had and open up the folder that I had unzipped, and inside the WordPress folder I have all of these files right here. Now, one thing you may have found is by uploading using the File Manager, you can't select multiple items
of these files right here
and upload them
Now,
all
one thing
at
you may have
once.
found is by uploading,
And so there is a solution here. I'll cancel out of that for now, and I'm going to open the Windows Explorer. I've navigated to that WordPress folder, and what I'm going to do is select everything inside of it, right-click anywhere in there, and I'm going to go Send to Compressed or Zipped Folder. Now this will compress everything into one .zip file that I'll be able to quickly upload using the File Manager, and then I can unzip using the File Manager right on the server. So now I have a zip file which is named whatever I had right-clicked up here. If you're on a Mac, it'll be called archive.zip by default. I'm just going to click that once and then a second time, and I'm going to rename it WP. Doesn't matter what we call it, just so that we know what it is. And so it is a compressed, zipped folder, and when we go back to the uploading screen for the file manager, we can go over there and find it and upload it as one file. There we go. I'll pause the video while this uploads. Gives me a success message down at the right-hand side. If I just click go back, it closes that tab in my browser, and I go back and see it right here. In the file manager, if you highlight that file, you can click the extract button up at the top right and then extract files, and it quickly extracts everything. Then you can say reload right here. You can see that I've got all my WordPress core files right inside of my folder, which is called brochure-site. It basically made a copy of all the files that were within the zip file. So if I highlight that zip file, I can save a little bit of space by deleting that file. Now I can highlight the wp-config-sample.php file and click rename up here. I can go right here and just rename it wp-config.php and click rename file. And now we have the wp-config.php file ready to go. If I double click this file, I can download it to my computer, edit it in my code editor, and then upload it back to the server. However, there's a feature directly inside the file manager where you can open up a file inside of a browser-based code editor. If you click code editor with that file highlighted and click edit, now I can see my whole wp-config.php file inside of the browser, and I can go up here and save it once I've made my edits. I know I'm going to need a database name, a username, a password, and a host name, however. So I do need to go back into the cPanel and go down to the databases area and click My SQL Databases. I'm going to create a new database, and I'm just going to call this one brochure, and the whole name is going to be my account name underscore and then the name that I place here. So I'll create the database, and it's added the database, so I can click go back. And you do need to create a user for the database so that the WordPress config file can log in as that user. And so here are my current databases, and if I go down a little bit further, you can see I can add a new user. So I'm just going to use the same name for this user. It only lets me use 7 characters, so I'm missing the E on the end for the username. And I'm going to type a password that I can remember and type it again so that it knows that we are using the same password, and I can click create a user. Click go back one more time, and now there's one more step. I need to give this user permissions to use the certain database. So if I want this user to be able to access this database, I can just select these 2 items and click add. And I want to click the all privileges button, click make changes, and now I've granted privileges to this database for the user that I created. So if I just click go back here, and I can actually get right back to the cPanel home. Now I know what those credentials were, so I can go back into my wp-config file and enter them here. Now I've entered those 3 credentials, and I know that when we're creating databases using the cPanel, we use localhost as the host name. And so I can go up and click save at the top right, and then I can just close that code editor, and I know my wp-config file is set up. That should be all I need to do inside of the file manager. So I can go ahead and close that, and inside of the cPanel I can just grab my main domain and I'll hit Control C to copy, open a new tab in my browser, and I'll paste that right there. But I'm going to add the name of the folder that I created right at the end there, and it looks like I've had an error establishing a database connection. No worries, this is very common. I can tell that WordPress is trying to see the database, and so something is working. Probably I mistyped the credentials when I was setting it up. So let's look at the databases section of the cPanel, and it looks like it's Greg D11, not Greg D1, that I was typing inside of my file manager in the WP config file. Very common error which may have happened to you as well. So I'll go back into the file manager. I know I need to open the brochure-site folder and then go to wp-config.php, and I'll go up and click the code editor and click edit. Now as I look at the database credentials, I can see that I'm just missing a number 1 here and a number 1 here. I'll just click save and then close, and I can close the file manager now. Now if I go back to this address and hit refresh, great, I've got my WordPress install happening. I can click continue, and now I'll fill in my credentials and set up my WordPress site. I've filled in all my credentials here. I used a password that I could easily remember, which was a weak one, so I had to click confirm use of weak password again, put in my email address, and I'll click install WordPress. Great, I love that success message. I'll click login just to go ahead and make sure everything is working. I think my browser's remembering my password, so it's one I often use. And great, I've got a new WordPress installation. If I right click on visit site and go over into my new tab, I've got a beautiful new WordPress installation that I installed manually. You can see that that takes quite a few more steps than it does to go into your cPanel and use the WordPress installer, but hopefully that gives you a good understanding of how WordPress works and connects to the database. In this video, you set up a new WordPress installation either on your local computer using MAMP or at your SiteGround live server completely manually. Maybe you even did them both. In the next video, you'll make one more edit to the wp-config.php file to make sure your site is using best practices for security. Plus, you'll install 4 plugins that we'll be using to customize the site. See you there. The WordPress salts are a series of encryption codes that keep the administrator account and dashboard area secure. In this video, you'll learn how to add these security codes to the WP config file, and you'll also find and install 4 plugins that we'll be using to customize the brochure site for the client. Let's get started. As you'll remember, to set up this WordPress installation, we went into the MAMP area, opened up the database and created a new database, and we also had to customize the wp-config file in order to attach the website installation to the database. If you've got your SiteGround manually installed site open, you can go to the cPanel and use the file manager to look at the WP config file. When that opens, you can see that I have the core installation files here, and then of course the brochure site installation files up here inside of the brochure site folder. Let's just open the WP config file right here in the auto installed WordPress installation. I'll click code editor and hit edit. That opens the WP config file inside my code editor here. And down below the database information, you can see that the authentication, unique keys, and salts are right down here. The auto installer has taken care of using specific salts that it got from the WordPress site automatically. If we go back, I'll just close that. In the file manager, I'll open up brochure site, and let's take a look at our manually installed wp-config.php file in the code editor. This is the same thing as looking at it in our text editor like Atom. If I scroll down a little bit, you can see that it just has a blank statement, put your unique phrase here. So like in our local environment, we can do the same thing inside the code editor here. I'll hit Control C to copy that URL, and I'll go up in a new tab in my browser, paste it into there, and now it's loading me up a nice fresh set of keys. I hit Control C to copy that, and back into the document and code editor, I'll select again that whole block and hit Control V to copy. Great, there's my unique keys. You gotta hit save up at the top right, success message down here. Now I can close that editor and everything is done. We can go through that same process in our code editor on our local machine to edit the WP config file in our local installation. Go ahead and make that edit of your WP config file in both installations. Pause the video now and give it a go. Did you get that done? Great, here's what it looks like. Hit Control S to save. And to prove that it worked, if I go back to the dashboard, try to refresh the page, oops, because of those secure keys, it's logged me out, and I'm going to have to log back in again. That proves that the secure keys are working. And if you ever have any fear about the security of your site or your dashboard, you can go ahead and change these keys and salts anytime you like, and then you'll be forced to log back in again. The reason we didn't set up the salts and authentication keys inside of our Flywheel sample account is that the managed WordPress hosting at Flywheel manages your WP config file privately. They don't let you access it yourself to make changes because they're editing it for best practices and security within their hosting system. You can request to make changes to it on your behalf if you need a plugin that has some specific requirements in the WP config file. But Flywheel keeps it secure and manages it for you. So if I just click my site right here, I'll show you very quickly the FTP access located at sftp.flywheelsites.com is right here. And as recommended in the previous chapter, I can open up Firefox and Fire FTP in order to connect via FTP to my files and my WordPress installation at Flywheel. So I'll go up to the top of my list here and click Create an Account. I'll paste that host right in here. And I'm going to use my username and my password. One other thing I have to do inside of this account, if I hit Edit, I forgot under Connection, I have to choose Security SFTP, which is Secure FTP, and hit OK. And now that I have done that, I can click Connect, and it will connect to my website files at Flywheel via my FTP program. Over here on the right-hand side, I can use the little arrows to click below. My site is called Flywheel, so if I just click that once, I can see the file structure over here on the right side as it opens up on the server. Now, if I click that WP config file, and I go over here on my computer side, under Users, there's my desktop. If I open my brochure site folder, I can bring the WP config file over to there just by highlighting it on the right and clicking that left arrow button. Gives me a message down here that it's placed it up in my computer right there. Great. Now over in Atom, my code editor, I can open a file and navigate to the desktop where I just saved that under brochure site. There's the WP config file there. I'll click Open. And here's my WP config file at Flywheel. You can see that there's a warning up here. It says this is automatically generated by Flywheel and you will not be able to edit this file yourself. And if you make an edit of this local version of the file, for instance, to choose new salts and keys and then try to upload it via FTP, it won't actually replace the Flywheel generated WP config file. We'll be setting 4 plugins up in order to give some functionality to this brochure site. And for all of these sites, you can choose to do it in your local development environment or at your SiteGround live server. So under Plugins, Add New, I'd like you to go in and look for 4 free plugins from the repository. We want to set up a contact form, an email protection, Google Analytics, and Google Maps plugin. Go ahead and search around the plugin repository and see what you can find. All right, what you may have done is gone into the search window on the top right there, and perhaps you typed contact form. There's a lot of good contact form plugins out there, and it doesn't matter which one you choose, except there is something that we're going to be going over later in the course, which is how to vet and choose from the plugins and themes in the repository to make sure you're getting one that's going to be good into the future and supported by the developers. Now there's so many contact forms here. I know the one that I like is called Contact Form 7. It's probably the most popular and most well-used contact form plugin inside of WordPress. So I'll just click Install Now. It'll give me a message after the plugin's been installed. And I can hit Activate Plugin right from that installation screen if I want to. And just to verify that we know what's going on, under the folders of this brochure site, now if I open WP Content and look under the Plugins folder, there it is. Contact Form 7 has its own folder, and we've downloaded it off the internet out of the wordpress.org plugin repository. So under wordpress.org, under Plugins, here's a very similar screen to what we find inside our WordPress installation. And if I search for that same plugin, it should come right up. If I open the page for that plugin, I can get a lot of information here across these tabs. You can download it directly and then upload it into the plugins directory of your WordPress installation. But all this information here is also available inside of the installed plugins screen, which is right here. And then if you hit View Details on any of the plugins, that's going to pull up information directly from the wordpress.org website into your WordPress installation screen so you can see all of the different information that the plugin authors give to you. One of the things I always look for is that I make sure that this plugin has been updated recently. It's compatible with the version of WordPress that I'm using. I always look at how many active installs there are and make sure that that's quite a lot, so that I know that the developers support the plugin that I want to use. Now, when I said an email protection plugin, you might not have known exactly what I meant there, but one of the things that I always do with client sites is to protect their email addresses from being harvested by spam bots across the internet in the case that they actually type their email address into a page or a post or place it on the contact page or in a sidebar widget on their website. There are several different ways to protect email addresses from being harvested by spam bots, but I appreciate this one plugin. Here it is, Email Address Encoder by Till Cruz. It is a lightweight plugin, which means it doesn't take any bandwidth or space at all inside of your website. All it does is it converts the email address when it recognizes it to a hexadecimal so that the bots can't harvest it. So I usually click Install Now and activate the plugin. The email address encoder doesn't take any setup at all. It automatically recognizes email addresses inside of the website and converts them to hexadecimal. Let's take a quick look at how that works. I'm just going to go ahead and put an email address straight into the front page of the website. And though it'll be visible to a member of the public, it won't be harvestable by spam bots. Even if I were to make it a link and have it be clickable, it won't be harvestable. So let's go ahead and update this page. Great, a real email address that's visible on the front page of the website. There it is. Well, let me open my web developer toolbar and then click view source. And if I scroll down to the source of this page, let's see, I go into the body and I can see the site header, and here's the entry content. The first line, look at all that hexadecimal code. It basically converts every few letters or many of the letters in the email address to hexadecimal codes instead of the actual lettering. So it makes it readable by the browser, but not readable by the spam bots. At the same time, if that email address, potentially I want it to be a mail to link, like that, that would make an email address clickable. So let's see, I'll refresh the page. The email address will be a link. That means that it'll open up my email program and send an email to that web address when I click the link. But if we do the same thing, look at the source of that page, even when it's a clickable link, I can see that even inside of the link, it converts it to hexadecimal, and it converts the actual text that the humans can read to hexadecimal as well, so that it's not harvestable by the spam bots. I'm going to go ahead and take that email address out now. Update the page. There's plenty of Google Analytics plugins, and you can actually, depending on the way your theme is set up, place the Google Analytics tracking code directly into each page of the website. But it's easiest to use a plugin in this case. Perhaps you went and found a number of Google Analytics plugins. You'll always want to give your client the opportunity to track the traffic that's coming into their website. Let's take a look. Boy, there's a lot of Google Analytics plugins. One of the best ones is the Google Analyticator by Sumomi. I often use that. Sumomi is often a free service that I use for social sharing and networking, which we'll get into in a later video as well. But you can activate that plugin right away and then set up the code directly with your client's Google Analytics account. One more to go. Let's search for a Google Maps plugin. Great. First thing I'm looking at is the number of active installs and the number of positive reviews. WP Google Maps, that one looks good. 300,000 active installations. As I scroll down, I don't see anyone quite as popular. Here's a good one. Looks like compatible, updated 4 days ago, 100,000 installs. But boy, this one updated 6 hours ago, 300,000 installs, and compatible with my version of WordPress. That one looks good. Great, I'll activate the plugin. And later in this chapter, we'll configure each one of these 4 plugins and customize it for the brochure site. In this lesson, you used the WordPress encryption keys and salts generator to paste security codes into the WP config file and saw how it logged you out of WordPress. Then you went and found 4 free plugins from the WordPress plugin repository that we'll be using in this brochure site, making sure they look current and supported. Next, we'll customize the home page of the site, choosing the layout. We'll also look at the difference between pages and posts in WordPress and learn when to use each. In this lesson, you'll customize the WordPress page used as the front page of the brochure site. You'll also explore the differences between posts and pages in WordPress and add a site logo and icon using the customizer. By the end of this video, you will have already set the brochure site apart and branded it for your client, And you'll have an understanding of how the customizer works within the WordPress dashboard. Plus, you'll understand when to use posts and when pages are more appropriate. Let's get started. Let's start with editing this front page that we have inside of WordPress called sample page. For now, I think I'd just like to get rid of this title, add a nice big image, and maybe keep some of this descriptive text in here. So I'll go back to that page inside the WordPress dashboard, which I have open here. And the first thing I'll do is, if you look at the permalink, you can see that since I have it set as the front page of the site, it's really the site's URL that's the permalink here. But I'm going to go ahead and just get rid of that page title and click Update. And then once that saves, I can go back to my other tab and hit refresh, and you'll see that that title of the page itself is gone. Now I can trim this text a little bit down to what I want. Let's see, I'm just going to select a bunch of this text and hit backspace, delete, get rid of that, and get rid of this text as well. Now as you can see, this text is styled in a certain way. If I select it, you can see that this quotation called block quote is selected. If I get rid of it, it's just the regular text, but I kind of like that, the way that's styled as what's called a block quote. And above here is where I'm going to put an image. Let's just hit update and we'll take a look at that. Once the page refreshes up here, there we go. I'll hit refresh. Great, now if this is a descriptive piece of text about my website, now I can put a large image here. Now I've prepared a huge image for you to use if you like, or you can use your own. This is at wpdevcourse.com/hugeimage.jpg. It's a 7 megabyte image. Here it is in full size. And so you can see it's a very large image. And as I introduced to you in chapter 1, I'd like you to go ahead and open an image editing piece of software that you should have for the course and trim this image down to a reasonable size. Let's say 1600 pixels wide and preferably under 200 kilobytes in size. So pause the video right now and see how you get on. So if you right-click the image, you can click Save Image As, and then go ahead and save that image. I've already got a copy of it, so what I'll do is open up Photoshop and click File Open. And here's where I've got the image. And now I'll open that image in Photoshop, and first thing I want to do is click Image, Image Size, and size that to 1600 pixels wide. There it is at 100%, just so that we can see how large it really is. It could be a full screen image if we want, plenty big. Now I'll click File, Save for Web and Devices, and that's set on JPEG High. If I drag around, I can see what it looks like. Let's see what it looks like with the medium setting. Well, it does look just as good on medium, and it's only 119K. So I'll hit save. And I've got a folder on my desktop called Brochure Site. That's where I've been saving some of the images here. Call it large image and save. Now, if I go back into WordPress, one thing I'll do is just put my cursor there inside of the page where I want that image. Click Add Media, Upload Files, and then I'll select it on my desktop. Large image, open. You can see as that's opening, it'll give me some details over here, how big it is. The full-size image is 1600 pixels wide at 123 kilobytes. I might leave this as a left-aligned image. I don't need to link it to anything. And if I look at the sizes, these are the sizes I have set in the media settings. And I think I'll leave it at a large setting and then insert it into the page. I can see that since it's left aligned, it's placed it inside of the block quote line that's right here. If I want to sit that image above that block quote, I might change it to no alignment. There we go. Now it sits above there nicely. Update the page, and let's take a look at it on the site. Nice. That's a nice big image. Looks great. Next, let's make some edits to the site title and the tagline and add a small logo up here on the left side. If I go back to my dashboard, let's go ahead and under Appearance, click Customize. This will open up a live editor where we'll be able to see the live site here on the right and a customizing window over here on the left-hand side. Under Site Identity, you can see that there's a few options here. The site title, which of course is also available under Settings General. But what if I called this Fireweed Photography? That's a fireweed plant there. Potentially this could be a photographer's site. Great. You can see it updating in real time as we update the site title and the tagline here. Of course, we could uncheck the site title and tagline and have that not visible in the case that we wanted to put a logo that had some copy or the name of the site inside of the logo. For now, let's leave that visible there, and we can click Save and Publish. And there it goes. It says saved. So if we look over here at the site on the different tab, if I refresh, there it is, Fireweed Photography up here in the tab, as well as right here. And then the home link is clickable to the home page. Site title. Let's add a logo. Now it says a suggested image dimensions of 240 by 240. And you might think of going into Photoshop or your image editor and preparing an image of that size. I've already prepared an image that's 240 by 240. I called it logo image. So I'll go ahead and upload that. Now since it's sized perfectly, when I hit select, it'll give me an opportunity to crop it if I want to any size I like. But I can skip cropping, and we'll see what 240 by 240 looks like. Ah, it's nice and square. Great. However, you know what? I might prefer if it's maybe, I don't know, about half that size so it doesn't push the site down so far. Well, suppose I wanted to change the logo. I could actually select that same image and crop it differently. Say I wanted to bring it up like this and then hit crop image. I could size it appropriately. Nice. Now let's save and publish. And I've got a nice logo that's also clickable to the home page. Let's add an icon, or what we might call a favicon, like this W from the WordPress site over here that appears in the browser, using the customizer. If you look down here, the site icon wants it to be 512 pixels wide and tall. A square icon. Well, I'll just open up Photoshop. Maybe I'll do File New. Here's where I'm getting into a little bit of graphic design. 512 by 512. Let's see, maybe I'll just choose a background color of a nice dark green. And let's see. Let's do, how about a big F for fireweed? See, if I make that, let's just make the color of the font a nice black. Try to find maybe a sort of an elegant capital F. You It's going to show up better, I think, if I make it white instead of black. And here we go. Sure. That's going to have to be pretty large to fill it up. There we go. How about even larger than that? 600 point. Is that a little too large? No, that fits nicely. For a site icon, you've got to keep it pretty simple looking because it's going to be so small in certain browsers, and it'll use an icon on mobile and things like that. Great, so now I'll just save for web and devices. This time, since it's so graphic, I'll just use a PNG, only 4K. I'm just going to call this one icon. Now let's go back to WordPress, and I can select the image. I'll have to upload it. Great, look how it shows with rounded corners, and I can save and publish, and you can see what it looks like up inside of the site title inside of my tab. Great, a nice F for fireweed photography. For the last part of this video, let's take a look at the difference between pages and posts in WordPress. Here on the sidebar, by default, you'll see that we've got a couple of widgets here on the sidebar. One of them is called Recent Posts. Let's go ahead and click that Hello World. Let's take a look at this post. Now, the header, which contains the logo and the site title and the tagline, is the same. But what we have here is a post that contains a few extra things more than what that page contained that we made as the front page of the website. They look virtually the same, but what we've got is a site title and some content. But then to the left, inside of this theme, is an author name and a gravatar, or an image avatar for the author, a date, and then there's an edit button. If you're logged in, many pages on your site will give you that edit button so that you can come back to the dashboard very quickly. But then as you scroll down, you can also see that this says one thought on Hello World. This is a comment. There's a default comment that also has a date and an author avatar, has the comment there, and even a reply button, and a reply comment field down here in the bottom, and the ability to post comments. These are a few of the differences between pages and posts. Now, WordPress, originally being a blogging software, now that it's developed into a CMS, we don't always use the blogging functionality, but when you look at posts inside of WordPress, you'll see that if we look at that Hello World post, some of the differences that we have are the ability to have that date, and that's called metadata over here on the side or under the header of the post title. And then there are post formats that a site's theme are able to use and define posts in certain different ways. Also, a big difference, posts can be categorized and posts can be tagged. And these are all navigation and findability conventions so that users can browse different posts and find what they're looking for. Otherwise, the editing area is virtually the same. In a general sense, posts are designed to be news or blog areas on a website, somewhere that you post where people can comment, and that you put newer content and ever-changing or periodical content on a website. Pages, on the other hand, are designed to be static and maybe containing some information that doesn't change. Oftentimes, we'll have a series of navigation buttons across the top that can point to different pages on a website, like an About page, a Contact Us page, and other pages like that. And then we might have a link to some post categories, or on the sidebar we might offer some archives to different posts. So that in May 2016, you can see that there was one post, the default post, posted on this date. That way users can go through the website and find content they're looking for, or look at the blog section of the website and see the latest content. In this video, you've optimized an image and revised the home page of the website. You've uploaded it to the media library, as well as uploaded and configured a logo image, edited the site title and the tagline, all using the customizer and the site identity section. And you learned a little bit about the differences between pages and posts in WordPress. In the next video, we're going to configure the navigation menu across the top, and we're going to set up some interior pages that users might like to navigate to, like an About page and a Contact Us page. And we'll also configure the sidebar to be a little bit more appropriate for this brochure site. Let's make sure visitors to the brochure site can find what they're looking for. In this video, you'll create a few interior pages and the navigation buttons in the header that leads visitors to those pages. And we'll start revising the sidebar with more appropriate content. Here's where you'll consider what parts of the site appear on every page, giving visitors every opportunity to find what they need. Let's get started. First, let's brainstorm what pages we need visitors to link to from the header menu here. Maybe we need a Contact Us page, and probably an About page. And then maybe let's offer a third page, which would be a portfolio page, maybe a photo gallery. So if we click back to the dashboard, first thing I'm going to do is go to Pages and Add New. Let's add a couple new pages. Here's a challenge for you. Add a page called About, and another called Contact Us, and another called Portfolio. And then add those three pages to the header navigation using appearance menus. I'll check in with you after you're done. How'd you do? Hopefully that was pretty simple. Well, at this point, I'm going to put in some dummy text in here, and let me just show you real quick where you can get some great text that's your standard lorem ipsum text at lipsum.com. You can just scroll down, choose how many paragraphs you want, click Generate Lorem Ipsum, and it'll come up with some text in Latin just for some placeholder text. And so I'm going to place that, just go ahead and paste as text to make sure that there's no HTML stuck in there from the website. And now I can turn that off. All right, there's an About page with some text, and I'll publish it. And when that publishes, I'll go back and click Add New, and let's add a Contact Us page. In fact, this is a photographer, so I'm going to put Contact Me, make it pretty personal. And I'm going to paste the text in there again. Publish that page. And then a third portfolio gallery. Now I can go in and change that text later, but it'll give us a good idea of what text will look like on the page. And of course we'll add an image gallery to the portfolio page eventually. Now that I have those three pages, I'll go to Appearance Menus, and I know that I'm going to be able to put a menu in here called Header Menu and hit Create. And over on the left hand side, under Pages, I can click View All, and I will put a Home button. How about that? And then I'll put these three pages I just created, click Add to Menu. I'll also click that I want this to be in the primary menu location. where in this theme, it's at the top right at the header here. Once I've done that, I can click Save Menu. And you can also open each one of these menu items to give yourself a few more choices. Now the navigation title, I don't want it to be post number 2 no title. I want that to be home. Now that that's saved, let's go back to the site and refresh the page and see what it looks like. Nice. The one that's bold is the page you're on, and they roll over blue, which is the standard color. And if you click any of the menu items, the header stays the same, and it opens that page. You may have noticed the Manage in Customizer button at the top of the menus. There's, from any page, you can hit Customize, and just like when we created the site logo and the site identity section in the Customizer, you can also manage menus there and see your changes live on the live editor on the right side. So if you roll over menus and open that up, here I've got the header menu and the same options I had as under Appearance Menus are here on the Customizer. You can also automatically add new pages to the menu when you create them. Suppose you wanted to change the order of the menu around a little bit. It'll show you what it looks like live. Let's leave About on the outside so it's very visible. And you can also control the way your theme shows drop-downs as well. What if I wanted to put the contact page and the portfolio page underneath the About menu with a drop-down? You can see that it's slightly indented over here as I control it inside the Customizer. And then when I roll over About, that's what drop-downs look like in the 2016 theme. Next, let's change what the sidebar is displaying to make it more appropriate for our brochure site. In most themes, the sidebar and footer content is controlled using widgets. As with the menus, you can use Appearance widgets, or you can use the Customizer. At this time, go ahead and remove all the widgets from the sidebar and replace it with a list of pages for navigation. I hope that was easy for you. Here's what it looks like when I do it. This time, maybe I'll start with the Customizer. Alright, now that that's open, I want to open the Widgets tab, and it looks like there's a content bottom, 1 and 2, and a sidebar area. Now I can see that these are different widgets that are inside of the sidebar at this time. And I'm going to go ahead and remove each of these widgets by opening it and clicking Remove. Let's leave the search bar there. That's appropriate for a site. I'll save and publish. I can see that now I've just got the sidebar filled with a search window. Let me do the other half using Appearance widgets so that you can see the difference. Now what I've got are the widgets on the right side that I can open and close. And on the left side, a series of available widgets. One of the things I want to add to the sidebar area, that's called a widget area, is a list of pages. Maybe I'll actually place that below the search bar. Let's see what options I have here. Maybe I'll name this Pages, and I can sort them by the page title, the order in which they were published, or the ID. Why don't I go ahead and do them by page order, and then if I wanted to, I could exclude a page from the sidebar. Let's go ahead and look at the site and refresh the page and take a look. Great, now maybe I do want to exclude that page from the navigation just because it says has no title. It's post number 2. But if it wasn't named number 2, how do I find out what the post ID is in order to exclude it from this Pages widget? Well, let's open the Pages. And if I roll over it and look down at the bottom left of my screen, I can see that the URL says post equals 2. That's the post ID. The About page is 22. Contact Me is post 24. Portfolio is post 26. So I'm going to go back into Appearance Widgets, and I'm going to exclude post ID number 2 from my Pages widget. All right, let's go ahead and refresh the page and see how that worked. Great. That looks great. Now I've got navigation at the top in the header area as well as on the sidebar. No matter what page I'm on, those two are going to show. In this video, you created a menu for the header of the site and revised the content on the sidebar, giving website visitors the ability to find what they need with navigation buttons that appear on every page of the site. In the next video, you'll configure the contact form and place it on the Contact Me page and make sure it's set up to email you the contents when someone fills it out. See you there. In this video, we'll configure the contact form plugin and insert it into the contact page. This will give visitors a way to contact the website owner through email using a common form on the website. Using a contact form like this is a professional and tidy way of communicating with website visitors and adds value to the website. You'll learn how to use the Contact Form 7 plugin, its many possible configurations, and how to embed a form anywhere on a website. First, taking a look at the dashboard, we keep seeing this welcome to WordPress, welcome screen, but you can dismiss it and then it'll go away. Now, under screen options, there's always checkboxes for what you need or what you don't need on your desktop dashboard for WordPress. And so if you check that box, that will come back. But when you dismiss it, it unchecks it. Here's your challenge for this video. Since we have the Contact Form 7 plugin activated, we have the contact menu bar over here on the left-hand side. Go ahead and add a contact form, configure it a little bit, and insert it into the contact page. Pause the video now and give it a try. How'd it go? Here's how I'd do it. I'll go over to Contact Forms, and you can see that Contact Form 7 also has a dismissible message, but it already populates the plugin with a contact form that's been made already. You can see this is where it gives you a short code, which is how we place it into a web page or in a widget. But if I look at the Contact Form 1, I might just open that and use it for my contact form. I'm just going to put Contact Me because that'll match the name of the page where I'm going to place this contact form. And then you can see Contact Form 7 gives you a few tabs across the top. One is the form. The next is the mail tab, and this will show you how your message is going to be mailed out to you, and then you can actually attach a second message down here that could be used to respond to the person that filled out the form, showing them what they sent you. Messages are when the form gets sent, Contact Form 7 will open up a message to the user to say what happened, whether there was an error or whether the form was sent. And then there are some additional settings if you need customization code snippets that you've gotten from around the internet, or other things like integrations with mail servers and things like that. But for now, the simple form is probably fine: a name, an email, a subject, a message, and a send button. I might leave it as is for now, and when I come here I could see that I would like to receive the messages at this email address. My name, sure, the subject, and then it'll put all these things in the body of my message. And the default message sounds great. I'll just hit save since I changed the form name. And if I just click once in the shortcode here, I can hit Control-C to copy it, or if I right-click, I can hit Copy. And then let's open up the page and see what this looks like. With a shortcode that's surrounded by brackets, the way that is, you don't have to place it in either the text tab or as text right here. What you can do is just paste the contact form as is with the brackets straight into the body area, update the page, and then let's take a look. Refresh the page. Great, a nice looking contact form. The button looks nice. Tells me which fields are required. Great. Now, if you're building this site in your local development environment using MAMP, the way that I am, we're not going to be able to actually test what this email looks like when it sends, because we don't have a mail server installed on our local computer. There are ways to do that, but when I'm building websites, I'll generally build them at my live server, either behind a maintenance screen or behind a password, and that way I can test that the contact form works. If I am building a site within a local environment like this, I'll just place the contact form here, and then once I migrate the site to the live server, I'll make sure and test the contact form. If you do happen to fill it out and test it, let's go ahead and look at what the message says once we hit the send button. It's got some little, there was an error trying to send your message. Please try again later. Now that's because we're not attached to the internet and there's no mail server here in my local environment. In a later chapter, we'll be going over transactional emails that WordPress sends from the server, marketing emails through a service like MailChimp, and other ways of emailing through websites. For now, though, let's just look at other things that we can place within a contact form using the Contact Form 7 plugin. Back under Contact Forms, I can edit this form. And if you remember, there were a bunch of different buttons for the Form tab here. Things like email, telephone, URLs, a number, a date, a text area, a drop-down menu. And these pieces of code are necessary to place the form inside the website. But suppose I wanted to do something like a drop-down or maybe radio buttons. I wanted to have, I wanted to choose whether they are male or female. Just an example. But if I hit Insert Tag, there we go. So just like this is a text area tag, this one right here is a radio button that has two choices, male and female. And so what I'll usually do is just copy and paste other sections so that I have the line break and the text here that I want. And then you've got to close the paragraph tag. Great. Now if I save that contact form, because it's pasted into my contact page using this shortcode, once I change it here, it'll be changed on the website as well. But there's one more thing I need to add, and that is in the mail area, when I send myself an email from this contact form, I want to get that in addition to the message. I also want to know the answer to that other question, the gender. And so if I just scroll up just a little bit, since I created another field inside of the contact form, it gives me what I need, the code to place in the mail to give me that information once the user's answered that question. So I'll just copy that, paste it here, and save the form. Great, that looks nice. So in this way, you can really build a contact form for any purpose using so many different types of things like checkboxes, radio buttons. There's quizzes, recapture to prevent comment spam, and things like that. Now, suppose I wanted to place that contact form on the sidebar of every page on the site. It's as simple as placing that shortcode inside of a widget on the sidebar. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. If I re-grab, copy the shortcode again, let's go to Appearance, Widgets, and then to place any kind of item, HTML or text, or even images inside of a sidebar widget, you can use a text widget. So I'll drag one over. Let's place it there below the search bar, but above the page's navigation. I can title it Contact Me. And let's just place that shortcode there. Alright, I've saved that widget, and I'll refresh the page here, and we'll see what it looks like. Great, again, a nice looking form formatted for the text widget. Now, I don't think I want to have the contact form on the sidebar and be present on every page of the website, so I'm going to go ahead and drag it out of there. One thing is that there's an available widgets section on the widgets page and an inactive widgets section that you can use to save widgets with their current settings if you like. So I'll take that Contact Me here. If I just make the available widgets a little bit smaller, now the inactive widgets will keep their settings. So if I just drag the Contact Me text widget across, WordPress will save it there for me if I ever want to activate it later. So if I refresh the page, I can see that that'll be removed from the sidebar. In this lesson, you've configured a simple contact form using the Contact Form 7 plugin and checked out the different types of information you could collect in a form. Plus, you used a shortcode to place the form on the contact page as well as in a sidebar widget. In the next video, we'll continue to build out the contact page with an interactive location map using the Google Maps plugin. Let's go! In this video, you'll add an interactive map to the website for a client that has a location. We'll use a Google Maps plugin to easily embed a map on the contact page and in the footer content area of your brochure site. Businesses with a location need to let website visitors know exactly how to find them, and you'll be able to set them up professionally with these techniques. Let's get started. To embed a map on the contact page, what we'll do is put some contact information with the address that we want the visitors to know, and then we'll drop it in here below the title and above the contact form so that it sits in here, a nice interactive map of the location. So if we go to the dashboard, and if the Google Maps plugin is not already activated, go ahead and activate it, and then roll over Maps, and let's look at Maps. This Google Maps plugin allows you to have one map unless you upgrade to the Pro version, but we only need one map on this, and so you can configure this map for your purposes. So let's go ahead and open up the one called My First Map and take a look at the settings. And the default settings are fine to leave for now, but it looks like we've got an indicator on this map that is California, United States. So I'll just get rid of that marker, and I'm going to add another marker just right down here. Put in a location with an address. Click Add Marker. And then I can go down here and I can use the mouse to zoom in and pan around until I center myself on the marker right where I want to be. I want people to be able to find the location easily, but also know where they are and be familiar with it when they see it on the contact page. Great. So as I've dragged the map around, it's showing me the width at 100% for a responsive map, and that's what I want it to be, sized for the person's screen. Let's save the map. Great, you could see that it moved the zoom level to there, because that's where I had zoomed in. Now that I have that map, I have my marker at 35 Front Street, and it gives me a shortcode, just like the contact form. So if I copy the shortcode, I should be able to just open up the contact page and drop the map right in where I want it to be. Oh, I'm excited. Let's open up the website contact page, and once this is done loading, I'll go ahead and refresh it. Nice. So if I click on the marker, it shows me the address. It's an interactive map, so I can zoom in and out. I can locate the location. I can also use the mouse to zoom in and out. And these are functions that you can either keep or limit using the plugin settings. It's a little bit close to the contact form there, so I'm going to put a little information below the map and above the contact form to set it apart just a little bit. And let's check the responsiveness to the screen size. If I drag the screen from the right a little bit and make it narrower, I can watch the site and how it reacts to different screen sizes. Great, that map is interactive and responsive. Awesome. Go ahead and make that map for any address you like on your own Contact Me page, and then separate the contact form from the map with a business name and address and lay it out so that it looks good. Pause the video now, and then I'll show you how I would do that. How'd you do? Well, if I were going to do that, I would go back to the contact page, and after the map, but before the contact form, I would just enter a address, and then if you hit Shift Enter, it'll do a single line space instead of a double line space. Might actually put another space in there, and then how about a horizontal line there? You know, I'm going to go ahead and center that and make it larger. Nice. And I probably should announce this contact form. And update, let's take a look. Nice. Okay, now if we look at every page of the website, there's a header, there's a sidebar, and there's two areas, left and right, that are located above the footer that you can use that are widget areas in the 2016 theme. What I'd like you to do now is put a Google map into one of the widget areas and the name, address, and phone number into the second widget area for the lower footer area. See how you get on. How'd that go? Here's how I would do it. I'm going to go back to the contact page and just grab the address and phone number because I'll be using it there in the widget. And then why don't I do this using the customizer so that I can see what it's looking like as I go. Now that the customizer is opening, I can go to the widgets area, content bottom 1 and 2. Let's go ahead and put a text widget into the content bottom 1 widget area. I'll title it Find Me. Now, inside of widgets, you can only put text. You can style it with HTML, but the HTML that came from the page on the contact page up here didn't transfer over when I copied and pasted from that interior page. So it wasn't large. If you remember, this was heading 2, and it's centered. So I could use some HTML tags like center and close it with some tags and a slash in front of the command. And if I have an enter here, I can click automatically add paragraphs so that it'll put a line break in where I have line breaks. And let's just see what it looks like if I put heading 2 for the phone number, but not for the address. Ah, okay. Now this is going to be on the left side if I use content bottom 2 because it's left and right. You know, I think I'll use heading 2 for the address as well. So I'll just take this heading 2 tag, cut it, and paste it right there. Nice. Now hopefully that won't be too wide. You know what, I could actually put a carriage return in there after Front Street, and then I won't need the comma. There we go. That's going to be a nice block of text. So if I have that on content bottom 2 for content bottom 1 rather, in content bottom 2, whoops, I'm going to add one of my maps. So the Google Maps plugin provides some widgets, and it was the ID one. That was my only map I had. I can have a title so that it matches. Nice. Now you can see it's responsive to the area of the widget, and then there's the address. So let's take a look at it, say, on the home page, because those content areas at the footer of the website show just like the header and the sidebar on every page of the website. Great. So as somebody scrolls to the bottom of any page of the website, they'll be able to get the contact info and an interactive map if they like. So that's what the home page looks like. And say we go to the About page. Great, there's that footer area. Nicely done. Now, something you may have noticed is that on the Contact Me page where we have our map embedded, if you scroll down to the footer, the map is not shown in two places on the same page. Also, in terms of the plugin that we're using right here, you're only allowed one map unless you upgrade to the Pro version. So I've done a little research and I've moved over to this WP Google Map plugin here by Flipper Code, installed it, and found it to be a little bit more user-friendly, and it has the ability to create more than one map and embed more than one location marker on each map. I have already installed and activated the plugin, and I'll show you some of the differences and how I was able to make it set up a little bit better for our purposes, I think. So you add a location separately from a map, and then you can manage locations and manage maps. The first thing I did was added a location with our address. I called it Fireweed Photography, but if I go in and edit it, you can see how this plugin works. And it also has a nice feature where you can display the info window message above the marker with whatever you like there, and you can have it by default open when the map opens. So that's what I placed here. I checked the info window default open box, and then I saved my location. Then I added a map. So let's go ahead and manage maps. I called the map the same thing. And here are some of my settings. I did have to experiment a little bit and choose a zoom level between 1 and 19 by saving the map and embedding it on the contact page and then going back and looking at my zoom level. 15 is what I settled on, and I made the map the same amount of pixels. high as we had before, and it says right here you leave it blank for the map width to leave it 100%, which would make it responsive to any screen size. So then there's a lot of other options, turning on and off options and controls for the user, but then I just saved the map. And once you save the map and you go to your Manage Maps page, you can see the shortcode right here that needs to be embedded on the page or the widget. So I'm hitting Control C to copy that. And then I'll go to the Contact Me page, open it up, and replace the old shortcode with the new. Now here's what the contact page looks like. You can see that I don't have a marker, but if I click on it, there's where I get my marker information. And the map is zoomable as well as draggable. So let's replace the shortcode with the new one. Update the page and take a look as we refresh the Contact Me page. Nice, that looks a lot better to me. It already has the infographic up there. It also provides a little bit more space between the map and the information down below. And now the old map is now able to be embedded down here, but I thought of another change we might make, and the ability to have a second map within our system will be useful here. I'd like this map to be maybe 200 pixels tall instead of 400, so that the sizing on the footer here looks good. So let's go back and create a new map under WP Google Map. This one I'm going to call Fireweed Footer, just so I can differentiate it. 100% width. This time I'm going to make it 200 pixels in height. Let's go to the same zoom level. And I'm actually going to use the same location on this map. And now all I have to do is go to Manage My Maps and find the shortcode for this one, which I called Fireweed Footer, right over here. Copy that and then paste it into the widget area. This time I'll go to Appearance Widgets. We'll look at Content Bottom 2. Now if you remember, I dragged in the WP Google Map right here, and I'm going to go ahead and just drag it back over here and deactivate that widget, and the new plugin offers us a widget as well. And I'm going to select the Fireweed Footer map, title it Map, and click Save in the widget. Let's go back and refresh the page. Nice. That looks much better. And we can display both maps on the same page. And to review, if I click About, the map on the footer appears on every page of the website. And now I think it's laid out just a little bit better. The last thing I'm going to do is go ahead and keep my WordPress installation clean by going back into Plugins, Installed Plugins, deactivating and then deleting that plugin. Let's see, it's WP Google Maps, not by Flipper Code, but by WP Google Maps. First, you need to deactivate a plugin before you're able to delete it. Once you hit delete inside the WordPress dashboard, it'll give you a confirmation message. Yes, delete these files. Great, now my installation's all cleaned up, and we've inserted some nice maps into our website. In this video, you've configured a Google map to display an interactive location map to visitors of the site. You embedded the map into the contact page, as well as setting up 2 footer areas for location information. In the next video, we'll set up the Google Analytics plugin to begin tracking activity on the website, and also to display the stats on the dashboard. Google Analytics is a free service that provides the best website visitor tracking. You just need to get a free Google account, and you can see the traffic on as many websites as you like. In this video, you'll set up a Google Analytics account if you don't have one already, and connect it to your brochure site using a plugin. Allowing your clients to easily see traffic and visitor stats inside the WordPress dashboard is easy to do through a plugin. And it keeps the tracking code separate from the theme files, allowing you to change or upgrade themes without affecting the tracking. Depending on the client, you may want to encourage them to get their own Google Analytics account and then pass the credentials on so that you can set up their WordPress dashboard. If you don't think they need more than just the WordPress dashboard stats, or wouldn't log in to use analytics themselves, you can use your own account. In this video, I'll demonstrate how to sign up for an account of your own and connect it to the WordPress site. Now, I'm already signed in to a google.com account that I set up for this purpose, and I'm logged in already, as you can see here at the top right. If you click the Google Apps icon, you can open up a few options, but then you must click the More, and then it's not even here to get to analytics. You need to click Even More from Google, and that'll give you everything that they make. And down here on the left side under Business is Analytics. You can also just type analytics.google.com. When you're logged in, if you already have an analytics account, it'll take you to your dashboard page. But since we're starting from scratch, I'm going to have to use this Gmail and Google account to sign up for a Google Analytics account. Great, now I can start in with the setup. All I need to do is go through the selection process here with a new account. I'm going to track a website, and I'm going to choose a name for it, which is the name of the website that I'm creating. Now, it is at a certain URL, but since we're developing this site locally, I don't have a live URL for it yet. I'm just going to put that in for now. And let's go ahead and put the actual URL in here. Go ahead and put in my time zone. I can basically leave all the settings at their defaults and click Get a Tracking ID. I do need to accept the terms. And then Google Analytics will open up my dashboard page. Great. Now, a tracking ID that starts with a UA dash is something that you can use in most plugins to go ahead and set up your Google Analytics tracking. You can also track manually on any website or place a tracking script in the header of a website so that it appears on every page, just like this. Some themes give you a place where you can put scripts like this into the header or footer of the website, and this is one way to manually insert Google Analytics into a WordPress site. For us, we're going to set up a plugin that while we're logged into Google, we can give permission to the plugin to get our analytics tracking code and place it properly inside the website. Now that we've got Google Analytics set up, let's go back to our brochure site dashboard and look at our Google Analytics plugin that we installed in a previous video. I'll click here to open up an authentication window with Google. Google Analyticator would like to view and manage the data. Control C for copy. Copy that once, save and continue. Great, it sees Fireweed Photography as the one property in Google Analytics. I'll hit save. And then once I enable that, I'll be able to see some stats on the WordPress dashboard. Now, if there were any traffic coming into this website and it wasn't hosted locally, but it was live on the internet, I'd be able to see a Google Analytics summary here with a lot of great stats for me or my client. Let's go ahead and look at a second option that we might use by hitting Plugins, Add New. Just do a quick search for Google Analytics. And you can see right next to Google Analyticator is one called Google Analytics by Monster Insights. More than 1 million active installs. I know that this was recently acquired by a great set of developers from Yoast. And so let's check this one out. Just click Install Now. I'll click Activate the plugin. And now I've already got an Insights menu item over here. I'll take a look at the dashboard. It is giving me a little warning message in red. Please configure your Google Analytics settings. That's great. And let's go ahead and click Settings. Great. Now, since I'm already logged into Google Analytics in the background, I should be able to just authenticate with my Google account, and it should pull the right code in here. It opened a window and says that, yes, I'd like to allow Google Analytics to connect. Gives me an authentication code that I can click Control-C, copy it, paste that right here into the WordPress plugin. Great. Now I can click Save Changes. And what I'll do is select the one profile for the website that I had set up in Google Analytics, because that's the one that I'd like to set up and track. I think that's it. Now, if there was traffic coming to this website and it was live on the internet, we could go to the dashboard menu item under Insights, and it would start to show us some tracking graphs and reports coming from Google Analytics. Don't forget, you don't want to have two Google Analytics plugins set up at the same time. And so just as I did before with Google Maps, I'm going to look at my installed plugins and go ahead and deactivate the Google Analyticator plugin and delete that from the website to keep the installation nice and clean. There we go. In this lesson, you've logged into Google Analytics and set up a new property for the brochure site and explored and set up two different Google Analytics plugins. You authenticated the plugins with Google, and you've seen where the traffic stats and reports can be seen within WordPress. In the next chapter, we'll revise our brochure site and change the homepage from a static page to a dynamic blog-style homepage, which will change when new posts are published. See you there.